Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. Today is January 2nd. I can't believe it's the new year. This is crazy. This is my first video going live of 2020. So hi, welcome. If you're new here, my name's Abby. I make videos all about nursing school, which is crazy because it's kind of going to be coming to an end soon, and it's more going to change into videos just about being a nurse, which is wild. If you're new here and you don't know, I am in my senior year of nursing school, and I just finished up my fall semester, and so I just have the spring semester left and then I'm done. So that's pretty wild. If you're new here, I'm super glad you're here. If you haven't already, go ahead and go down below and hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to that subscribe button. All the bell does is notify you anytime I post a video so that you can stay caught up. So today's video is going to be a semester update. I have filmed one of these, I think, for every semester of nursing school. I will link all the previous ones below if you want to just go and have a marathon and binge watch and see how every semester has gone so far. You can do that. They will all be linked down below. This semester was the fall semester of my senior year, like I said, and I took 3 classes this semester. So if you're new to nursing school or you don't know much about nursing school, in nursing school, how many times can I say nursing school in one sentence? In nursing school, they don't, as far as I know of, I don't know any program that does, but they don't let you choose what classes you take. It's all like preset in a structure. You're told exactly what you're taking when. So this semester I took 3 classes. It was community nursing, intro to nursing research, and adult health 3. Adult health 3 is basically like med surg at other schools, or I've also heard it called critical care nursing. We've had 2 adult healths before. Like I said, I've talked about those classes already. You can check out those videos down below. But adult health 3 is basically critical care nursing. So we were really heavily focused on the ICU and the ER and like some emergency triage situations if we were like out in the community. First, I'm going to talk about community. Community health was an interesting class. I actually didn't mind it that much. We did clinical for that class, and we worked with home health nurses. So those are nurses that work with patients out in the community that live in their home but still need assistance. So maybe a patient that is older and a little bit forgetful and has a lot of medications they take, the nurse will come by and make sure their medications are being taken, check their blood pressure, check any wounds that they have, things like that. It tends to be a lot of elderly. I know that there are pediatric patients that have in-home health care, but none of the patients my nurses had were pediatrics. So it tended to be a lot of elderly folks, and I just spent 2 days with her. They were both, I want to say, like 8 to 10 hour days. I don't remember exactly. And I got in her car with her and just rode with her to all of her assignments, went with her to every patient's home. And every patient's a little bit different with home health care. Sometimes you see these patients a few times a week, some you see once a month. It really just depends. And the home health care nurse has a lot of say in her schedule, which is nice. Usually, at least the company that I was assigned with, the nurses that I went with, worked with a company that assigned them patients that were in their local area. So say you live in Phoenix, they were just going to give you patients within like a 30-mile radius of your home, which is nice. We had a few patients that were definitely outside of that radius, but that was only because a few of the other nurses that work for the same company were out sick, and one was on maternity leave, so my nurse had to kind of pick up the slack and care for patients that were outside of her little mile radius. So that's kind of why we were traveling, but otherwise it tends to be just around your area from what I know. And that was the clinical for community. Hey guys, so I'm actually sitting in my bed editing this right now, and I wanted to add in a clip. So I said that that was it for my clinical for community, and that's actually not true. I forgot to touch on a bunch of other things I did. I went to an infusion center for a day. So one of our local hospitals has an infusion center attached to it where patients can come and literally just get infusions. So if patients need chemo, they'll come in for that, or patients that need just fluids, or patients that need blood replacement, or there are like some medications that patients need infused, all sorts of things. So I did that one a couple days, actually 2 days. And then what was the other thing I did? Oh, we did a flu shot clinic. So me and a few of my classmates provided flu shots to students and staff at our school, and we also went to a hospital and provided flu shots to the staff at that hospital. So that was it for clinical, but I forgot to add those in. So we did those as well as the home health nursing for clinical for community. Okay, back to the video. Class for community was pretty simple. We tended to have a lot of public speakers come in. So we had a police officer came in and he taught us about like self-defense and keeping ourselves safe, especially with community nursing. Safety is a huge thing and you just have to be aware of your surroundings. You don't know what kind of homes you're going into. You don't know what area you're gonna be in. You don't know what people are doing, people's intentions are. So keeping yourself safe as a community nurse is really important. So he came and spoke on that. We had a woman come in that taught us about sex trafficking and things to look for when it comes to sex trafficking, people that may be trafficked, identifiers that can help you identify patients that are potentially in those situations. We just had a bunch of public speakers basically. We didn't have any exams in that class. There were a few quizzes, just to, like participation quizzes to make sure we were paying attention to the people that spoke that day, but otherwise there weren't really many grades. We did have like a big service project we had to do and a couple papers, but nothing too crazy in terms of grades. It was a lot more just like getting to know the community. So the next class that I took was Introduction to Research. This is basically what it sounds like, a whole lot of research and a whole lot of papers. We didn't have any tests or quizzes in this class, but we had a ton of papers. It was a lot. It was a lot of work. We basically did a giant quantitative research paper and a qualitative research paper. If you don't know anything about research, those are just two different types of research. I did a lot of the editing, so I would like proofread. I'd shorten paragraphs because there were page limits, there were paragraph limits. I did the reference pages, the title pages, all that kind of stuff, all the editing. So that was research. It was just a lot of research, a ton of papers, and the papers built on themselves. So like 1 week we'd have like 4 paragraphs due, so like 2 pages due. Then the next week we'd have 2 more pages that built on those first 2 pages due. And then the next week we'd have like a whole PowerPoint due describing what our paper was about. It was just a lot. It was a lot of paperwork, a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of presentations, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't any quizzes or exams. And then my last class that I took was Adult Health 3, and like I said, that's basically critical care nursing. So it's really focused on being in the ICU, which is the intensive care unit, being in the ER, which is obviously an emergency situation, and doing a lot of like disaster triage. So if you're out in the community and like there's mass casualty incident, you need to know how to care for patients in those situations. So we learned about that too. For the clinicals, also I should say research didn't have any clinicals, but for the Adult Health 3 clinicals, we were on the ICU at a hospital. I don't remember how many shifts exactly we did with the ICU, but I loved it. I fell in love with the ICU. I'm still a little people nurse. I don't think this would make me transition to like want to work with adults. I felt like it really pushed me to recognize my love for the NICU and the PICU, so the ICU with pediatric patients, because I really fell in love with the complexity that the ICU brings and how intense the patients are. They're really sick, they're complicated, they got a lot going on, and there's just like a lot of unique things that the ICU does that no other floor does, and I thought that that was super cool. Like I just loved being a part of that. For example, I'm not gonna give away any HIPAA information with this. Just if you're interested in the ICU and want to know about like some of the weird things they do, look up Arctic Sun. I'd never heard about this. I literally talk about it all the time because it's just so mind-blowing to me. But Arctic Sun is something super fascinating that they do in the ICU. I guess I can give you a short summary. I'm not an expert, so I could totally be explaining this wrong, but from my understanding, Arctic Sun is a machine that's used when someone has had CPR, and CPR's been done, they've been resuscitated, they got a pulse back, they're breathing, but they're not neurologically responsive. So like you're talking to them, their pulse is back, you're talking to them, and they're just not there. They will attach these patients to a machine called Arctic Sun, and it takes their body temperature down to I think 1 degree below shivering, so your body can't recognize how cold it is anymore and you won't shiver, and it gives all your organs a chance to rest, your brain a chance to rest. And I think they do that for 24 hours. I think, I could be wrong, don't quote me on this. And then slowly, I think over the next 12 or 24 hours, I don't remember, maybe it's longer, I don't know. But over a certain period of time after that, after they've been cooled for a certain period of time, they start bringing the body temperature back up, and they just kind of see what the patient does, and sometimes they make a full recovery, sometimes they don't, and it just gives the brain a chance to kind of calm down and like almost restart in a way. So that was super interesting. I like spent a whole day reading about that and learning about that, so that was really cool. I saw a ton of different things. I saw patients that had strokes, like massive strokes, because obviously this is the ICU, so things are a bit more intense and critical. I had patients that were like had seizures and were having like leads placed to determine the location of the seizure in their brain. Super fascinating. Bunch of crazy, interesting things. Patients with GI bleeds. There was a bunch of stuff, and I really enjoyed it, is the point of this. I really love that clinical. We also spent a day following respiratory therapy, which was cool, I thought. A day with the IV team, physical therapy, the chaplain, and the house supervisor, which the chaplain is the religious services of the hospital. So if somebody's dying and they want to see, you know, I don't know, a Catholic priest or like whoever their religious person is, the chaplain will go and talk to them about that and make those arrangements for them, or if they can see the chaplain themselves in the hospital. So the chaplain goes around and kind of is there for the families and the patients as they're transitioning, whether it's to palliative care or they're actively dying or whatever may be happening. And then the house supervisor is the person in the hospital that makes sure they know, like, if there was an emergency situation, how many beds we have open in the ER, how many beds we have open in the ICU, where we can move patients to make room for more patients. They know everything that's going in the hospital at all times. It's wild. Crazy. I don't even know how they know all this stuff, but they do. So that was really cool, and I thought it was fun to see a different world outside of nursing, because nursing is what you normally see in nursing school clinical. So that was the clinical for critical care nursing for adult health 3. I loved it. Like I said, I really enjoyed the ICU. I really enjoyed the complexity of the patients and the intensity that it brought. And just like one day I was 1-to-1, my nurse was 1-to-1 with a patient, which means it's one nurse to one patient. So that's a really sick patient if you think about it, because they want that nurse only focusing on this patient. So that was really interesting too. So again, I really liked it. If you guys have had ICU experience and you enjoyed it, let me know below, because I think it's cool to talk to other people about what they liked or didn't like. So I really enjoyed that. The class portion of adult health 3 was hard. It was really tough. It's our last med-surg type of course before graduation. So now that I finished this semester, I'm done with grades, done with tests. Most people have this class their last semester, but my school doesn't do it that way. So the class portion was really hard. It's the last, you know, big hurdle to get over before graduating, which is wild. So I think that's part of why it's so intense, and it's critical care, so it's intense. It's really sick patients. New grads sometimes aren't even offered a job in the ICU because it's just hard. It's hard work, and so the class is hard. So it was really difficult. It turned out fine for me and all of my classmates. None of us failed, so that was good. But it was still really hard. It took a lot of studying. It took me changing up my study methods. I think I poured more studying into this class than any class before in nursing school. So yeah, it was a rough one, but it's okay. It's all good. So yeah, that was what my semester was like. The research and community classes weren't too bad, which I'm really grateful for, because adult health 3 was pretty hard. So it kind of like balanced each other out. Grades wise, I think I finished with all A's and maybe 1 B in adult health. I don't really remember, and I don't really care, to be honest with you. I've come so far from caring about GPAs. I used to care a lot, and it's important to care somewhat, but also at the same time, nursing school is hard, and I used to be the person that would obsess over getting like every point possible and being an A student all the time. And I'm more of an A-B student now, and that's okay with me, so I try not to stress about it. So yeah, and also grades isn't something I really like to talk about on my channel, because everybody's different, everyone's grades are different. That's okay. Yeah, that was my semester. That's the end of my fall semester, and now I'm headed into my spring semester, which will be my last semester of nursing school, which is crazy. I can't believe I'm about to graduate. It just blows my mind when I start to think about it for too long, and like I get all emotional, not trying to get emotional again. I'm just so excited to be done and to graduate and to actually be a nurse. It's so crazy to even think about. So heading into my spring semester, I'm taking leadership and management, which will have in-class stuff and clinical. I'll be taking transition to nursing, which is like, I believe it's only like the last few weeks of the semester, and it's literally what it sounds like, transitioning us from a student to a nurse. And then I'm taking my practicum, and that's it. My practicum is basically like a senior internship. If you don't know what that is, senior internship, capstone, nursing externship, a bunch of schools call it a bunch of different things, but if you haven't been on my channel before and you haven't heard me talk about this, it's basically where we're able to put in our preferences for the unit and the hospital we want to be at. They can't guarantee anything, but we were able to give our top 3 of where we'd want to be. and they will assign us a unit in a hospital. They will assign us a nurse, and whenever that nurse works, we have to work. And I think we have to do 12-hour shifts. So I'm still waiting to hear on where mine's at. I don't know the unit, I don't know the hospital, I don't know the nurse, I don't know if I'll be doing days or nights or both or anything. So I'll definitely update you guys as that gets closer, which hopefully I'll know soon because today's Thursday and class starts on Monday. So yeah, that's how my semester went. I'm super glad that it's done, and I'm just excited to get through my spring semester because it's the last one. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much for following along on my nursing journey. It's been crazy to have you guys here for as long as I have. I just love this little community that we've made, and it's so awesome. It just makes my heart so happy. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.